You're going to want to watch this episode if you are just starting or relatively new in your business and you're asking yourself the question, how do I get credibility? I'm Mr. Levy, global credibility expert, and I love the question that I'm going to focus on this week. And it's, when starting a business, there is the chicken and egg situation that comes up. Besides speaking with customers and following through on what is agreed upon, is there anything else you can do as a new venture, a new business, to boost your credibility? This is such a beautiful, open-ended question. I'm going to say first, is to make sure that you have articulated, that you've got the clarity of purpose of what you're doing. Right, so that you've got, I call it the CPoP, that customer point of pain. In 10 words or less, you've articulated that if it's for a business, it's done for the business, and for each of the individuals in the business, it's done as well. Now, one of the best ways one can get credibility when they're first starting out is by testimonials, is with word of mouth marketing. Okay, well, how do you do that if you don't have any customers, or if you have a handful of customers, what do you do? Or if you just don't have enough customers? Well, it depends on the product or service. If you have a larger product, for instance, when we're doing the Done For You book product, which is, it's not that long. It's a 4 to 6 month time frame. It's a reasonably large investment. What do we do to get testimonials? Well, we started off smaller, right? So we may have started off with a piece of the service, or we may have started off with the service as is, but done it at a very significantly discounted rate, with the caveat that listen, if we do this for you at this rate, can we at least get a beautiful testimonial, assuming you like what you do, as a video testimonial at the end, right? And so when you've got a bigger package, 10,000 plus package, what you want to be thinking about is, how do you reduce risk? So how do you build credibility? It's by reducing risk. Sometimes, if you have a much lesser package, you do it for free, and you do a number of them for free, even if the number is less than 5, and you get video testimonials, and you start showing those, and then you start increasing your rates over time. If it requires a large amount of effort, then what you may want to do is you may want to do things where you do it for a piece of pie. If you really love who you are and what you do, and particularly if your goal is to drive business for somebody else, you selectively go out to those businesses that that if they used your service, you're going to kick butt. And say, listen, I would normally charge, pick a number, $25,000 or $50,000. Here's what we're going to do. Pay me $1,000, cover, basically some of our out-of-pocket cost, and we'll take a percentage of success going forward for a period of time. Or maybe it's forever, right? What's interesting is, how do you build credibility? It's when people see you consistency. So you show up as yourself. You show up as someone where your purpose, your excitement is what they see. And it's not only consistent in terms of how you show up synchronously, but it's also reinforced asynchronously. So it's reinforced on your website, it's reinforced on social media. A lot of times, this also takes time. You could do things like research studies. So I'm continually doing research studies. So I did a 500-person research study. That took a year. What I do now is I'm doing surveys. And what's interesting, I'm doing surveys on 2 different platforms. I'm doing surveys on the audience I have on LinkedIn and the audience I have on Credibility Nation, and comparing the results from the 2 services. And what's really fascinating is when I could draw conclusions. Obviously, that's now empirical. So I get quantitative results from doing a survey on LinkedIn and a survey on Credibility Nation. I'm driving qualitative analysis of that results and then posting them back on social media and throughout. So what happens, another thing, whether or not somebody on the team is really good at creating videos, if that's part of what you're doing, just create a consistent, ongoing YouTube channel where you're actually consistently educating your audience on what it is that you're doing. Trying to think of what else. There are things you can do. I don't want to necessarily say gimmicky, but let me rephrase it. I'm just going to leave that off. I don't think the gimmicky stuff works in the long term. It doesn't feel credible. The best thing you do for credibility is to grab clients. So how do you grab clients? Once again, we're going to go back to mitigate risk. How do you mitigate risk? Well, you show that you're a proven commodity. Well, you do that over time as you get more and more clients. And up front, you take the risk with the client. That's kind of the best way you could demonstrate credibility. In some cases where you just don't know the answer, you are 100% sure this will happen, but you haven't proven it in the marketplace, take the risk with the client. And so that is a much more strategic client than other types of clients you work with. On the other hand, when you drive success in that way, that person's going to scream from the rooftops, which is really what you're looking for in terms of establishing and moving credibility forward. Today, if your client is on LinkedIn, have all of the team members actively work on LinkedIn, which means at the very minimum 2 or 3 posts a week, right? That absolute minimum. But going out and reaching people in your client base, doing educational approaches, whether or not you do, I like the 5-day challenge, or whether or not you do a single day event or webinars, but I'm not talking about the gimmicky stuff where you take a webinar, you put it there and it automatically runs all the time. What your job is the high ticket item is to get in front of your prospects and get in front of them with you and other members of the team so they get to see you. Credibility will build over time from that direct interaction and then continue to add value. So how can you add value besides delivering your product? And maybe many other things you can do. Maybe there's a lower service. Maybe some of the people who might be prospects of yours are not quite ready for you. Well, you introduce them to people in your network who can then make them ready for you. That will build credibility, right? So I think in businesses where it really is a large referral game and a trust game, which comes from people actually trusting, knowing, and liking you, what's involved is those interactions, those face-to-face interactions. By the way, Zoom is face-to-face, right? So getting those face-to-face interactions, those conversations, and continuing to add value so that you stay top of mind. Because until you have a large number of clients that are talking about you all the time, you've got to continue to, it's your job in terms of establishing credibility, is to continue to add value. So the last thought I would say is spread some Credust. Find other people who are either directly in the same space you're in or complementary to your space, and go out of your way to spread them. Potentially, here's a really cool part. Why don't you enter JV relationships with those people that are complementary to you and go out of your way to find clients for them, right? The types of clients where you end up being downstream to them, right? So when they provide their service and their client is happy, the next evolutionary step in the process is that they actually hire you. If you put the two together in the first place, that becomes natural, right? So that would be probably now that I've rambled a little bit about this, the thing I get most excited about, besides the standard block and tackle marketing, reaching, the types of things that we all typically do, why don't you go out and find those strategic partners that you actually want to market for, because it's easier to push somebody else's product than it is to push your own. Go out there and sell people who already have the credibility, who are already in the space, that when their clients graduate from their programs, their next evolution is to grab you. You keep doing that day in and day out. Next thing you know, you've got a lot of people who are graduating from your partners' programs and automatically jumping into yours. So in summary, what you need to do, find those partners you want to work with that are upstream and push business for them. You want to make sure you consistently show up on and offline for yourself, and you want to continue doing as many one-to-one conversations as you can and figure out the best way you can mitigate risk for your prospects who are not sure because you've not been around long enough. Hope you find that useful. Thanks for the question. I'm excited to hear your feedback. Let me know what you think. Click on the like button, share with your friends, and give me some comments. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye now.